Welcome to the deep dive. You've brought us some really fascinating material today, looking at someone who seems to have packed, well, multiple lives into one. Manuel de Valle y Colón. Attorney, judge, poet.
Yeah, quite a combination. And that tension, that's really our mission here. We're not just listing accomplishments, right? We want to get into how one person navigates these pretty distinct world's law, poetry, cultural advocacy.
And figure out what holds it all together.
Exactly, the philosophical core. And a lot of that seems tied up in his poetry volume. Omnibus Poetry 53, Spotting.
Spotting. I like that. It sounds like really paying attention.
It does. And the dedication sort of sets the stage, doesn't it?
Yeah.
For those who look deeper to see what life truly has to offer.
So we're aiming to look beneath the surface, too. Find those insights.
Precisely. And to get there, we kind of have to start at the beginning. His background, where this all comes from. It's a classic story in some ways, but with this immediate focus on identity, on justice.
Okay, let's dig into those roots. He was born in New York City, 1948. Parents from Puerto Rico, Hatillo, and Mocha. And he grew up in housing projects in East and West Harlem, Carver and Douglas.
Right, and that's not just biographical detail. It's foundational. It shapes the lens through which he sees the world and, the systemic issues he'd later challenge in court.
He wasn't just observing, he was living it.
And he got involved early. At Brooklyn Technical High School, he graduated in '66. He was doing all sorts of things. Debating society, fencing team manager.
Okay, standard high school stuff.
But the crucial part, really, was the Aspira Club.
Ah, Aspera, focused on empowering Latino youth through education.
Exactly. And for him, it wasn't just like an after-school thing. He became the Issues and Actions chairman for the whole Federation of Aspira Clubs. That meant he was actually being trained by the big names, the founders, like Antonia Pantoja.
So he was learning advocacy from the ground up, learning the mechanics.
Definitely. And you see that training pay off almost immediately in his academic path. It's quite a leap, isn't it, from the projects?
Yeah, to the Yale Transitional Year program, then Wesleyan, and then Princeton.
And at Princeton, graduating in '71, you could already see him building that advocacy foundation. He didn't just pick one lane. He majored in history, Latin American studies, and Afro-American studies.
Covering all the bases.
And he wasn't waiting around. He founded the Campus Latino organization. He set up one of the first Ivy League seminars on Puerto Rican history and politics. He was creating the space.
Okay, and this is where things get really interesting, that direct line from academic work to legal action. His senior thesis.
Right, the chapter titled A History of the Puerto Rican Student and Public Education, 1945-1969. It wasn't just, filed away in a library.
No. What happened?
It got put to work. That chapter became a memorandum for Senator Jacob Javits. And, even more significantly, the Puerto Rican Legal Defense and Education Fund, PRLDEF, they used it. It formed part of the core evidence for their complaint in the Aspira v. Board of Education.
Wow, so his undergraduate research actually helped launch this major civil rights case.
Incredible, isn't it? It shows that synthesis right away, history, culture, law, all coming together for practical impact.
And that momentum carried him right into Yale Law School, graduated '74.
Yep. And even while he was studying law there, he was teaching undergrad courses on Puerto Rican history and politics. He's learning the system and teaching its context simultaneously.
It's no surprise his classmates were people like Clarence Thomas and Lonnie Guarnier then. He was clearly operating at a high level early on.
Absolutely. A very driven individual from the start.
Okay, let's shift to his professional life then, because he jumped right into the fray, didn't he? Straight to PRLDEF as a trial attorney.
He did, right under the front lines. And that's where he helped bring that Aspira case home.
The one his thesis helped start.
The very same. He was part of the team that secured the consent decree, and that decree mandated bilingual education for kids with limited English skills in New York City schools. Yeah. Think about the impact of that.
Huge. Fundamental access to education, affecting generations.
Absolutely. And then there was Pabon v. Levine, another key case.
Right. Tell us about that one. What did Pabon actually achieve for people on the ground?
Well, it seems technical, maybe, but the impact was very real. It basically forced the state to provide unemployment insurance information notices, forms, all that in Spanish, not just English.
Ah, okay. So if you lost your job and needed help, you wouldn't be shut out just because you couldn't navigate the English paperwork.
Exactly. Imagine that vulnerability. Losing your job, needing support, and facing a language barrier. Pabon addressed that directly. It was about due process, about justice being accessible in a practical way.
That focus on language and identity, it seems like a constant threat. It wasn't just about winning cases, was it? His later career shows this ongoing exploration.
Yeah, you see it continue. He spent, what, over 10 years as a trial attorney for the U.S. Department of Labor, prosecuting federal labor law violations?
So complex legal work there.
Definitely. But then he moved into these key administrative judge roles. That's an interesting shift.
Like the chief administrative law judge for the New York State Division of Human Rights?
Right, from 91 to 95.
Right.
And the sources point out he was the first Puerto Rican in that position. And his focus, he prioritized tough cases, racial discrimination, sexual harassment, AIDS-related discrimination.
So handling really sensitive, difficult human rights issues, he's using the legal machinery, but then he steps back. The fellowships. Why pause a successful career to go study again?
That's a great question, and I think it's the bridge, really, to understanding the poet in him. The legal tools, the technical expertise. Maybe it wasn't quite enough when digging into the deep roots of identity and discrimination.
So he needed more context.
Seems like it. He got a Rockefeller Foundation fellowship, went to the London School of Economics to study how Puerto Rico had been treated legally by the U.S. Supreme Court, digging into the historical jurisprudence.
And then the Ford Foundation Fellowship, that one sounds really focused, investigating national origin discrimination.
And that led to a huge, 400-page monograph, plus an article in the Harvard Journal of Hispanic Policy. The title alone tells you something. Toward a language-based national origin modality.
Okay, language-based national origin modality. Break that down for us. It sounds dense.
It is academic, sure, but what he was doing was pushing the boundaries of how the law even thinks about discrimination. He was arguing that language isn't just incidental. It's so tied up with culture and identity that it needs to be seen as a core part of national origin discrimination.
So the standard legal boxes weren't capturing the reality.
That seems to be the argument. He needed philosophy, history, cultural analysis stuff beyond the statutes to really grapple with it.
Which maybe leads naturally to poetry, a different way of knowing, of expressing these complex ideas about culture and identity.
I think that's exactly right. And his curiosity wasn't just limited to Western law or Puerto Rican history. The sources mention his deep interest in Thai, Chinese, Japanese, even Taino traditions. He's a seeker.
A seeker, and that spirit definitely comes through in the poetry, which brings us back to this core idea, spotting.
Yes. Let's spend some time on that.
Okay, so what is spotting, according to Manuel de Valle y Colón?
Well, as I read it, it's about an awareness that cuts through the noise. It looks beneath the surface that society constructs. It's about spiritual transformation, sure, but also recognizing cultural memory, finding the essence of things.
The essential truth that maybe gets lost in the shuffle of daily life or even in the rigid logic of the law.
Precisely. It's about seeing what's really there.
How does that play out in the poems themselves? What are the themes? The images were really vivid. Let's start with embodiment and healing.
Okay, so there's this strong emphasis on being in your body, really integrating your senses, and importantly, not hiding from pain, but acknowledging it. There's this line, your muscle contains your memory.
Meaning trauma gets stored physically if we don't process it.
That seems to be the idea. But there's a caution, too. The poetry suggests words alone don't heal. It says the heart heals, sets the spirit free.
So legal justice might use words, but real healing is internal, spiritual.
Yeah, it connects the two, but distinguishes them.
Right.
Which links nicely to the theme of liberation.
Right. The sources contrast the grind, the exhaustion of, say, corporate or intense legal life. He even mentions drinking too much sometimes with a different path.
A path toward freedom. And it involves real discipline. Things like 3-hour meditation sessions, Qigong, Tai Chi. This isn't just, relaxation. It's presented as a kind of structural shift.
Leading to what?
Leading to a flash of light opening his third eye. It's symbolic, obviously, of seeing new possibilities. Possibilities that come from maybe stepping away from certain things, abstention, self-love, healing. Realizing that constant drive for
rivalry. That theme really jumped out. The critique of that constant human need to compete, to be praised.
Yes. He contrasts that exhausting rivalry with nature's effortless presence.
Like the rose doesn't need to beat the sunflower.
Exactly. Their beauty is just there,
Yeah.
but different. Think about that in the context of the legal world, which is fundamentally adversarial.
Yeah.
The poetry seems to say, what if all that energy spent competing could be redirected? What if we just affirmed differences instead of fighting over them?
That ties into the urban versus natural contrast too, doesn't it? The tall structures of urban center are framed as the place where man-made problems trap us. The very problems he was tackling legally.
Right. And he contrasts that with the humane level of islands, for instance, where maybe conflict gets resolved through mediation, where nature provides. It suggests living with nature, not constantly trying to engineer our way around or against it.
Which makes his critique of overload versus wisdom fascinating. Here's a lawyer, someone who relies on evidence, suddenly sounding skeptical of data.
It's a powerful challenge, isn't it? He questions our reliance on just piling up facts, on encyclopedic knowledge, like knowing the rings of Saturn are bright, dark, and dusty, or so we are told,
Meaning the data might obscure real understanding.
or lead to contrived solutions because it's derived from complex, maybe flawed systems. He suggests we need to give more weight to our senses, to our intuition, to what we actually spot and feel, rather than just what the data dumps tell us.
Okay, these are big ideas, let's ground them. The sources have these great little stories, these vignettes that really illustrate spotting. Tell us about the friend and the colorful sweater.
Ah, yeah, that's a perfect example. He talks about spotting a friend from a distance long before he saw his friend. How? Not by the face initially, but by this very specific, highly colorful, quilted sweater with a little yellow sun on it.
So the sweater was like a signal.
Exactly. It signaled the kind of interaction they were about to have, intellectual, contrarian, the kind they both enjoyed. He spotted the essence of the encounter, the energy of it, through that visual cue before the person was fully in focus.
Connecting the visual detail to the intellectual energy. That's neat. And the other story, the ritual of separation. That one felt very symbolic, almost theatrical.
It really is. To signal a break in a friendship, a serious one, he apparently left his sneakers at his friend's doorstep, socks too, and just walked away barefoot.
Wow. Where did he get that idea?
Borrowed from a foreign film, the source says, a dramatic gesture of separation. But the crucial part is the resolution.
What happened?
Later, the friend apologized. And to show understanding, the friend put on those discarded sneakers, symbolizing, the need to finally walk in his shoes.
Ah, walking in his shoes. That resonates so strongly with everything else, doesn't it? The lawyer needing empathy, the judge needing understanding, the poet using symbols.
It ties it all together. Whether he's fighting for bilingual notices in court or writing about abandoned sneakers, there's this constant drive to truly see and acknowledge the other person's experience.
So wrapping this up, Manuel de Valle Colón emerges as these two figures, really, but they're deeply connected. The fighter in the courtroom using law for justice.
And the poet, the chronicler, using verse and imagery to search for truth.
And both seem driven by that fundamental question. What does it actually mean to be human, right here, right now?
Absolutely. And for you listening, this idea of spotting, it's maybe a prompt for your own life, right? For critical self-awareness. The poetry even outlines a path to freedom from burdens we carry. It talks about breaking down internal walls, really identifying the source of pain or trauma, acknowledging it, even thanking it for lessons learned, and then consciously letting it go, releasing the burden to free the spirit.
Setting the spirit free to start new. Which brings us to that final, quite powerful image from the sources. The dream he had after surviving pancreatic cancer surgery.
Oh, right. That's a striking story. He survives this major health crisis and then has this incredibly clear dream. It seems to have clarified his purpose.
What was the dream?
Well, apparently he'd felt some pressure, maybe family expectation, to be an architect earlier in life, build things. But in the dream, post-surgery, he was given this choice summed up in 2 words: love and teach.
Love and teach, not build.
Exactly. He realized his path wasn't building those tall structures his poetry critiques. Instead, his commitment became clear. He wanted to teach elementary school kids, way up in the mountains of his country, to pass on that passion for learning, for awareness, for spotting what matters.
So the ultimate choice isn't just about careers, it's about worldview. Do you build based on layers of illusion, maybe data-driven assumptions, or do you choose the path of love and teach, focusing on the heart, the spirit, setting it free?
That really seems to be the question he leaves us with. Powerful place to pause and reflect.